Hey there, Samurai Nation. Welcome to the Blind Samurai Podcast. I am your host, the Blind Samurai Brian Cadian, and this is episode 38, and it is a special episode because we are on the road and currently in the studio of 721 Ministries with my good friend, the ever informative and always charismatic Sam Hunter.
Great to be here with you, Brian. Always enjoy this.
Yes.
What a treat this is for me.
And thank you very much for having me.
Yes. Welcome to the studio.
And to dial it in a little bit more for the listeners, we are going to be, this is the second episode in our Men's Mindfulness Month series, and we are going to be focusing on relationships.
Yes.
And the guy's role in the relationships. I know, Sam, you do a lot of work with men, specifically helping them navigate, the ups and downs, the challenges of life, and a lot of times it comes back to relationships.
Yes.
And in your experience, like what would you say the role of relationships are in our lives?
Well, I think the currency of life is relationships. The currency of life is relationships. Trust is the currency of relationships, but relationships are the currency of life. And it is a gaping hole in the life of men, relationships. And I mean specifically with other men. Hopefully the men have relationships with their wives and their children, but they don't have relationships with other men. It is a big missing link, and it contributes. Because I've watched this over 21 years of doing men's ministry. I've watched the emotional, mental, physical, even spiritual toll that it takes on a man's life when he doesn't have relationships. He doesn't have other men with whom he can be open and transparent and vulnerable, laugh at himself, talk about the things that are going on. Men keep it bottled up, and it's so unhealthy. And so we try to encourage that vulnerability, that transparency. We're not trying to turn men into women, but we're trying to get them to open up to the fact that they're not alone, and that it helps to talk with other people, other men.
To understand relationships better.
Right.
And everything that relationships bring, because they do, they get into your emotions.
They do.
They get into your heart. They get into your head.
Which gets into your physical body, because it's all connected.
Yeah.
And one of the setbacks or the challenges for men is most relationships between men and men is something you have to work on. You have to make the effort to connect versus it just being a natural thing. Maybe we could look back to when we were younger and we have friends from childhood. Well, you never made a connection. There was never any effort because it just happened organically in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Or maybe in junior high school or high school you played sports or whatever. But as an adult, you have to make the connection and then follow up. And, how many men do you think have, let's just say, 100 men that they can speak to and say hello? And Mike could tell you where they went to college and how many children they have and what their job is. They would have no idea about what might be going on inside of that man.
Right.
So it's a huge missing link, and men suffer for it. And most wives would say, I wish he had somebody that he could talk to about things.
No, that's a really good point. And by finding other people to talk to, you can open up communication in your more intimate relationships too.
Right. It'll open everything up. But it is a real stumbling block for men to be vulnerable. And I know if a man's listening right now, if a woman's listening, she's going, yeah, she's cheering us on. The man's looking at me saying, that sounds a little sissy to me. But it's not.
No.
And man to man that is a incredibly rich relationship when you cultivate it, but you have to cultivate it.
Well, and Sam, when was it in your life that the way you started to really take a look at yourself, maybe in your relationships? Did that have anything to do why you do what you do today?
First off, I have the great advantage of having been raised by Sam and Margaret Hunter, who were great at relationships.
Okay.
And I have 3 sisters who are great at relationships. So I came out of my family and my upbringing as being someone that it just came naturally.
Right.
You know, we joked on the before we started the show that my friend Warren commented that, you know, you may say about somebody, well, they have a lot of personality, you just got to get to know them. Well, that's not a lot of personality.
Yeah.
A lot of personality means you don't have to get to know them to see the personality.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always layers behind that. But I was raised in a family with a lot of personality. So
Okay.
I have always just naturally connected with people. But as I got into men's ministry, to be more specific with your question, when I got into men's ministry 21 years ago, that's when I started to see the hole in men's lives, that they don't have other men to talk to. And here's an example. We do these men's meetings around the state, and I'll have a man that has stopped coming, and he was steady, and then he stopped coming, and I don't want to get on the phone and hound him and say, why aren't you coming to the meeting?
Right.
But, so I'll wait a few weeks, but I'll eventually call him and say, hey, I just want you to know I miss you. You know, we miss having you. Come back when you can. That's the way I'll put it. And I cannot tell you how many times a man has said, Sam, I just can't come to those meetings. My life is upside down. My wife left me, or my business turned upside down, or any list of things that happens in life. And here's what they say. And I don't want to come into that meeting with all those men smiling in their perfect lives. You got that? While my life is falling apart. And
how did he know my life was perfect?
See? No. And I'll say to him, no. Look, I see behind the curtain of all those men's lives. They share that with me. Trust me, you're not the only one. It just looks that way.
Yeah.
So men come into any room, any environment with big smiles on their face, like everything's fine. And the beauty of our meetings, and we'll talk more about this later in our conversation, is that men have now, over these years, they've started opening up and saying, man, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Or this is something that I don't understand. And being able to bring that out. Now, these are oftentimes spiritual conversations or biblical conversations, but even otherwise, that is when the magic happens, so to speak.
Kind of and also being ready to ask for help, things like that.
Being ready to say, all right, so there's a couple of things you and I have chatted about, but when a man is telling me how upside down his life is, and if I say, you know, I'm really sorry, here's what I get back. Oh, no need to be sorry. I'll work it out. It'll be all fine. No need to be sorry. And I'll say, well, can I not express that I'm sorry this happened to you? What is it they're pushing back on? Pity. They don't want anybody to pity them. And I'm not pitying them. I'm telling them I'm sorry. It is amazing, Brian, how often men will say, and I would say, quite frankly, that it's almost every time they'll say, oh, no need to worry. No need to be sorry. I'll be fine. I'll work it out. Just recently, I had a man say, thank you, and I will receive that. Thank you for saying that. And that almost shocked me.
So what is it that makes a guy do that? Is it ego? Is it fear? Is it pride? Is it all the above?
Could you separate any of those three?
Well,
ego, pride, fear? Is there not fear and ego? And
absolutely. I mean, they're all connected. And I guess from having done some work on myself, with myself, you know what I mean? I've learned how to kind of separate those and look at them, from an objective standpoint, but also subjectively. Yeah. So I think there's a lot, it's a process, and like when you start to get someone that comes to you in need, how do you start to break that down? How do you begin to lay it out for them?
Now, first off, if you're going to do what I do for a living, you have to cultivate the ability to sit still and listen for a long time, which I do really well in these men's settings. I don't do it really well with my wife, Dina. I want to fix whatever it is she's telling me is the problem. I'm not, I need to transfer that talent that I've developed over these years, or that, something I put in. But you listen for a long time and let them say it. And oftentimes a man, and this is so important, oftentimes a man will just saying it out loud, he'll hear himself talking and he'll look at me and go, you know what, I just realized how ridiculous what I just said is. All I need to do is just hear myself say it, how I'm whining, or, this is not as bad as I thought it was. Just saying it, getting it out. But when they really are hurting, and I listen for a long time, and then I try to find common ground with that pain.
Yeah.
And then I try, after I've established the common ground, and this is not something I'm doing methodically. I don't have a checklist. It's just what I've tried to develop over the years.
Yeah.
Then I start talking about hope and let's switch our perspective from where we are to what can be for us. And things are going to get better, and they will get better. And if you'll use this terrible time in your life, I was just talking to a man before I came back to the studio, and I said, I know that how hard this is. But if you'll use it to get closer to Jesus, now that's my frame of reference, to God, to Jesus, then when you're through and you're on the other side of it, and believe me, David, his name wasn't David, but I'll just say David. Believe me, David, you will get to the other side of this.
Yeah.
Then you'll be stronger, and you'll be able to say, I wouldn't want to go through that again, but I wouldn't be where I am today had I not experienced it and used it to grow stronger versus use it to feel sorry for myself and collapse and pity. So men don't want to be told anybody's sorry, and then men don't want to ever ask for help.
Yes.
Because of our egos. Part of us, we're brought up in a society that says we're to be hunter-gatherers. You know, we got to get out there and kill the animals and bring home the food for the family. We cannot show vulnerability when there's a saber-toothed lion coming at us.
No.
But that doesn't work. That doesn't work in our world,
No.
in our life. That does not work. To ask for help I don't know that there's anything more connecting with another human being to say, I need your help.
And it's very liberating, too, if you let it be.
It's very liberating.
Very liberating.
I think about the Beatles song, Help.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
I do.
It's one of my favorite songs by them, probably the favorite song. And he says, when I was younger, so much younger than I am today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. Mm-hmm. But now I realize, and I can't get the rest of the lyrics right off the top of my head, how much more I do. I need help. And younger, I act like I didn't need it. Now I realize I do. Help.
Absolutely, and it's a wonderful gift, you know, if you let yourself receive it.
Yeah. If you will let yourself receive it and open up to the fact that I'm not Superman. I do have issues, and I do need your help. And can I talk to you about this? Can I open up and talk about how much this scares me, or how unsure I am, or how uncertain, or what a failure I feel like.
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about a man saying to another man, I just got to share with you, I feel like a failure.
Well, and that's a thing that a lot of guys get to, is like when they need to ask for help, like it's because they feel like failures. They feel like they're letting people down, you know, and you know, they're letting their wives down, maybe they're letting their kids down, and then they're unable, maybe for some reason, to ask for help or to get help. And where do those situations go?
We
all know where they go.
Where they go. And we've had men kill themselves because they thought everybody would be better off if they'd be better off with them dead than alive. I've dealt with men. A lot of the men that I deal with are in commercial real estate. And let's just go back to 2008 when everything collapsed and there was no business. Some of them had invested in commercial real estate, not just as a broker, but as an investor and an owner, and they were getting wiped out right and left. And I remember I got a call from a wife of a dear friend of mine, and she was a dear friend of mine, and she said, he cannot get out of bed. He's crying. He's saying how the family would be better off without him. Would you go talk to him? Well, in that moment, I said, yes, I'll do it. I'll do it right now. I hung up the phone. I went to his office right then because he was a dear friend of mine. And I walked in the door, and he said, my wife called you, didn't she? And I said, yes. And I said, come on, let's talk about it. And as we talked through it, I said, now, Bobby, can you see that you are clinically depressed? Mm-hmm. Oh, no. I'll get through. I said, no, wait, stop. You can't get out of bed. You're crying all the time. You're sad. You think the world will be better off. And I'm not a big as you know, neither one of us are big pharmaceutical guys. No. But there are times when somebody gets so upside down, and I just said, would you just get a little bit of help? This is not going to last if you'll just get a little bit of help. And he did. 6 months later, he's back in stride. But
it can help. It can help you get a grip on it.
It can help you get a grip. You don't want to live that way, but it can help you get a grip.
Right.
But Brian, he was going to sit there and stew.
I know.
I'm a failure. Oh. And one of the things I said is, Bobby, how can you think you're a failure? Everybody in your business is failing right now. You're not the only one. Yeah. All of you are this thing's killing all of you. So I've given, I'll tell these men, you can tell your wife that she has my permission to call me directly.
Wow.
If you're upside down. Because you might not call me to tell me, but if your wife calls me, now I can go talk to you. And I've had this happen several times.
Well, that's a great thing, man. I mean, I've known you for how long now, and I didn't even know that you open yourself up like that.
It's for his sake.
Yeah.
And so I've had wives call me and say, my husband, the business thing is turned upside down, or or lawyer's in the middle of a case. His head's about to explode.
Yeah.
He's white knuckling it so bad he can't even breathe. Would you go talk to him? And sometimes I'll get in the car right then and go straight to the office, walk in. I don't care if they have a client or not. I said, I'm here because your wife just called me. Because men will not reach out and say, I need help. I need help. I'm collapsing here. I'm drowning here. I'm failing. I need help. They'd rather die than ask for help.
Well, that's really, I mean, if I may say so, you're really putting yourself out there when you do that too. I mean, that's, I just see that as exceptional that you're able to find, the time and the tone and the texture to be able to have those conversations with guys.
Well, part of it, thank you for saying that. I'm certainly nothing special,
No.
but I'm in relationship with them, see. I'm
Sure.
in relationship with them.
Yeah,
I've earned
relationship.
the right to go in and talk to them that way.
Have you ever had that where it turned on you? Like where it just didn't, like where the friend, it kind of turned, that whole thing got ugly because of that?
Not with me.
Not with you.
Not with me. They may not, men will hit rock bottom, but then there's a whole nother rock bottom to hit after that.
Yeah.
I've seen them continue down the slide.
Yeah.
But I've never had that damage a relationship.
Okay.
Now, of course, if we start talking about relationships, which is something I wanted to mention later, I do want to come back to my story that I shared with you about asking for help.
Yes.
So let me do that story first, and then I'll come back to men calling me to talk about an issue in their life that is let's just call it a sin.
Okay.
There's another woman, and some of the conversations I've had there. Yeah. And as a teaser to that, which we're going to come back to, just think if Tiger Woods, remember he had that total flame out with the Swiss woman he was married to, wrecked his car, got multiple affairs, lost, tens of millions of dollars, probably hundreds of millions of dollars, both in advertising.
Definitely hit a rough patch.
Yeah, hit a rough patch. What if he'd have had someone that he paid $10 million a year just to stand next to him and not let him have those affairs? He'd have his family. I'm just putting all this in mercenary terms. He'd have hundreds of millions of dollars. We need men that we can open up to and say, hey, there's a girl at my office, and I can't get my eyes off of her, and I need to share this with you so that you can hold me accountable, because I'm afraid I'm going down the wrong path here, and I need somebody to help me with this. That kind of situation. Well, let me just stay on that for a minute, and then we'll come to the help exercise.
Yeah.
We really want someone in our lives that we can go to and say, I'm drinking too much. I'm starting to look at porn.
Yep.
There's a girl at my office. I went out to lunch with her, and I want to confess this. I want to put it out on the table, and I want you to hold me accountable. Yeah. Because I don't want to go down that path.
Right.
And I'm going to go down that path by myself if I don't have somebody to help me. Stay away from it. Stay out of it. Now, you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and I can just apply that to so many things that I've been exposed to in my life, and I was like, I don't know where to begin. But no, it is. I mean, it is important. If you can find a person like that in your life, where you can kind of bounce those things off to, your authentic self, like your real authentic self, like the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yes.
And you can make it work for you. And it's not in a manipulative sense. It's not so that you can get away with more.
Right.
If you can generally find someone like that to have, a confidant, the Italian mafia will call a consigliere,
right.
Where you can bounce it off them,
right.
and
Well, I'll give you an example, and this happens over and over and over, and it happened recently.
Yeah.
I'm sitting down with a man, and I said, how are things going? And He said, I'm doing fine. Everything's good. Oh, we're all great. That's what you always get to start off with. But eventually he said, I may have commented, I may have said, we all know, and I wasn't speaking about him directly, but I made the comment of, we all know that there's probably one or two things in our lives that really shouldn't be there. Maybe I was talking about myself, but he stopped me and he said, oh, I got the one thing. I said, okay. You want to tell me about it? He said, well, yeah. I said, well, what is it? He said, what I look at. I said, okay. Would you tease that out a little bit for me? And he said, I don't really look at porn sites. I said, okay, let's define porn sites.
Okay.
He said, no, really, I don't. But I do let myself look at what people might want to call soft porn. Let's just say Victoria's Secret commercials, just that kind of stuff.
It's like the Coke and Diet Coke battle there.
All right. So I said, and he said, and I do that on my computer. And I said, now, I'm not judging you.
Yeah.
But you do realize that any number of things could happen. Your daughters could go on your computer for some other reason and see that.
Yeah.
Your wife could go on and see that. You could just collapse, and everybody's got to get your computer out to try to follow up. They see that. Are you telling this because you don't want this in your life? Yes, Sam. I said, well, then let's come up with a way that will stop you from doing that. It cannot be just call me. It's got to be something so draconian that if you don't want to do it, that you'll stop. Now, you've seen that with people that get addicted to drugs or alcohol. Something's got to step in to stop that.
You don't want to go to bars, right?
Yeah, you're all right. Don't go to bars.
Right. Pick a better group of people to hang around with. Yeah.
So I had a man come to me and say, I got a problem with pornography. And now, if you're listening to this podcast, you likely have a problem with pornography. I don't mean because you're listening to this podcast, but because so many men do have a problem with pornography.
Okay.
It's rampant. At one time, Brian, I had 5 laptops in my attic from 5 different men who could not look at pornography on their office computer or their home computer, so they had a laptop. The only way they could stop themselves was to give me the laptop.
What does pornography do into society?
It's creating these unbelievably unrealistic expectations for the men and their wives.
Yeah.
It's sickening. I happen to be lucky that that's never been something I looked at. I've got my other issues, but I don't gamble and I don't look at pornography. I got other issues, so I'm not trying to stand up here and say I'm great, but I know how bad it can be.
When it's so available now.
It's so available.
Back years ago, like when I was growing up, you do one guy and it was in a, under a, something inside a tree fort,
right. Right.
It was hard to get.
Yeah.
And that was, and you get a videotape was at a buddy's house on a sleepover. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But now and I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, I can't watch it.
Yeah.
I don't miss it.
Yeah.
And I just remember when I could see and I had a phone, it was like it was always there if you wanted it.
And it'll just pollute your brain. It'll pollute your
Yeah.
brain. So I may have shared this with you at some other time, but this was 20 years ago. We just started 721. I was sitting in this room looking at it. I was trying to find some type of athletic website, looking for some type of athletic stretch bands, for my knees or whatever. Yeah. And I ended up on a porn site. Now, it may have been, and I'll be honest, it may have been that I saw the corner of my bathing suits and I went and clicked on that. I don't remember, but there I was on a porn site, sitting right here, and I looked at it for about a minute. Now, somebody that's addicted to porn would say, well, that's nothing, but a minute is a minute. And I turned it off. I went about my day. I came back. I turned it back on. And they gave me a free glimpse of a video for 30 seconds. Yeah. And I looked at it. And, Brian, I stepped away from that and thought, oh, my gosh, I'll get addicted to this in a day. So I called 2 men that were on the board of 721 Ministries. And they were each given $1,000 a month. That was 21 years ago. That was a lot of money. And we needed it. And I called Irv and I called Mark. And I said, I told them, here's what I've done. I'm going to give you my word that if I do it again, I will tell you.
Yeah.
And if I do it again, I want you to yank that $1,000 forever a month. And both of them said, oh, I don't want to do that. Let me just be your accountability partner. I said, no. This is too powerful.
Something draconian.
Something draconian to stop me, to shut this thing down. Otherwise, I'm going down tubes on this. I'm afraid I will.
Yeah.
I asked for help, Brian.
You asked for
I
help.
asked for help. I needed help.
And have you always been good at asking for help, Sam?
No, are you kidding me? I was Superman.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask anybody for help. I'll conquer this. You want me to tell you the story now about asking for help?
Well, I mean, come on. That was
that
like,
a setup?
come on. That was a layup, man.
Yeah.
Come on now.
So my wife and I were at this conference for one of our daughters, and it was in Tennessee, and we were there for Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, and then leaving Sunday morning. So we'd been in this conference room building for 2 days, 2.5 days.
What kind of conference was it?
It was a conference for people that are dealing with addictions.
Okay.
All right. So it's out here it's out right outside of Nashville.
Okay.
So I'm in this room for 2.5 days as the parents, and
Got it.
they tell us that on Saturday afternoon we're going to do a ropes exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did was we leave the building, we go have lunch, we come back, they blindfold us before we go in the room.
Yeah.
And they say, now we're going to walk you in blindfolded, we're going to put your hands on the ropes. We don't know what the rope system looks like in this room.
Yeah.
But because Sam is such a high performer, I had mapped out in my mind where the exits are. There were only 4. I knew where they were.
Yeah.
And they said, when you find your way out, that's what we want you to find your way out.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the next instruction was, if you need something, here's what they said. If you need something, raise your hand and one of us will come over. If you need something. So I go in and I start moving on the ropes, and I'm trying to move towards where I know an exit is, because Sam's going to win. And I'm not trying to think that way. That's just the way I'm wired. By the time you get mixed up and somebody bumps into you and you got to move away and let them go by, and then you're all blindfolded, and they said, now this is not a competition.
Yeah.
8 minutes into it, somebody had found the way out. Sarah found the way out, and everybody claps. And I thought we weren't supposed to clap. I thought this wasn't a competition. So I I double down. I finally raised my hand after about 30 minutes. Counselor comes over and he says, "What do you need? What can I do for you?" And I said, "I need for you to tell me that this is bogus, that there is no way out, so I can stop doing this silliness." And he said, "That's not what you want. That's not what you need. That's what you want." And he said, "What do you need?" And I said, "I need for you to tell me this is ridiculous." And he said, "That's what you need, that's what you want, not what you need." So I said, "Forget it." So I go on now we go an hour
Oh, so
later.
it didn't end there.
It didn't end there. We're an hour into this. And everybody has found their way out
I'm sorry.
but one other person and me.
Yeah.
That's 30 of us.
Mm-hmm.
An hour later, I've been walking around blindfolded, holding on to these ropes. You know who the second to the last person to get out was? My wife.
Your wife.
Who is also not going to ever ask for help. So she gets out, and now I'm really frustrated. And finally, Brian, I ripped my face mask off, my blindfold, and I said it in a very frustrated. "This is ridiculous." And I probably threw a couple of words in there I shouldn't have thrown in there. Wow. And the head counselor comes over to me, rushes over to me, and he says, "Sam, what are you doing? How do you expect to lead men's ministries if you cannot ask for help?"
Oh.
That was the way you got out. Not to find a door. You raised your hand and you said, "I need help." Sarah found the way out. When the counselor came over to me, remember, he said, what can I do for you? And I said, "I need for you to show me this is ridiculous." Go ahead.
A half hour earlier.
Yeah, half hour earlier that this is ridiculous. And he said, "No, that's what you want. What do you need?" What he was looking for me to say was, "I need help."
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to do it. Because I didn't need help. I'd figured this out myself, and an hour into this whole thing, I'm the last person. So it was an unbelievable exercise to drive home. Ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask for help.
And would you say that experience made you more aware, more mindful, and maybe even more efficient in your current relationships?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it just drove home.
Yeah.
How far I could go beyond where I was, in being sure I was vulnerable, and authentic, and would ask for help when I needed it.
So what's like a real-time way, say, if there's one of the guys out there right now, one of our brothers, that's just say struggling with some of these things, struggling with urges, struggling with, the inability to, ask for help, and, when it's affecting his life. You know what I mean? It's it's affecting, and then probably most importantly, the people closest to him, which could be wife and kids and such.
Right.
What do you say to that guy, that just needs to take that first step?
Well, I'll back up a step.
Yeah.
And say this: we as men want to be involved in a group of men that would open the door for that kind of conversation.
Right.
We're lone wolves. We're hunter-gatherers. Get into a small group of some sort.
Okay.
If you're at a church, find a small group within that church. If you're within any other kind of organization, try to figure out a smaller group, someone that you can connect with. And that's hard for men to do, and they don't want to do it, because it takes effort. But you've got to find someone with whom you have common ground.
Okay.
And then you can say, I need help.
And how about for men that are out there, with their friends, their bros, their training partners, their fellow coworkers? What does the guy do in order to receive when somebody comes to them with these problems? What's the best thing for them to do? Listen?
Listen, and listen, and listen.
Don't judge.
Don't judge. Don't try to fix it.
Don't try to fix it.
Which, of course, we all want to do.
Yes.
But I want to try to fix Dina's problems because I can see the solution to it, and it seems so obvious. She don't want me to fix it. She wants me to listen. A man really needs for you just to listen and be encouraging and say, if you can say, I know how you feel. Don't say, I know how you feel if you don't.
Yeah.
But if you really have experienced what they are experiencing or something similar, say, I know. I feel that same way, or I've experienced that same thing, or there have been times when I find that common ground and be open yourself to say, yeah, I struggle with that, or I have struggled with that, or I've struggled with something similar to that.
Yeah.
Now, if you're someone who's walking around keeping it all bottled up, and you don't have any kind of a small group, but there's got to be somebody in your life that you have some degree of relationship with, well, then just swallow your pride and go to that person and say, I need help.
Yeah.
Think about this, Brian. You could be in the worst, and I think this is a way of helping to reconcile bad relationships.
Yeah.
Is to go to that person and say, I need your help. Because all of us human beings, we are wired to want to help. Mm-hmm. And if somebody comes to you and says, I need your help, somebody that's wronged you, let's say, or that you don't like them, whatever, and they come and they say, hey, I need help, your heart's going to open up to them.
And it opens the door sometimes for forgiveness, too.
For forgiveness. But if just you have someone that you have just a normal relationship with, just somebody that you see at the gym, or you see at work, or you see at any kind of thing, just say, hey, you mind if I take a minute? I need some help. Yeah. There's rarely anyone that will say, oh, I don't have time for that. No, how can I help? And if you're that person that you just asked, that someone's approached you that way, give them the time. Look them in the eye. If you're not, we have a saying at 721, if you're not looking, you're not listening.
Right.
So if I'm talking to you and you're looking at your watch, or you're looking at the TV behind us, your phone, or the people working out in the gym.
That's a good one.
You're not listening to me. Now, you may hear the words I say, but you didn't listen to what I said. So look at them.
Yeah.
You can make the eye contact and say, I hear it. I hear what listen. I'm listening. Listening is a fine art. My sisters are really good at it. My older sister's the best listener I've ever met in my life, and so I've tried to glean off of her how to listen. And listening is a real gift that you can develop and you can give to other people.
Well, because in return, people can usually tell when you're really listening to them, because you're actually, hearing what they need.
Right.
Versus, like you said, and if you're trying and you practice being a good listener, I think you can pick up a lot of things that at one time you might, I think you notice you used to miss a lot.
Right.
Because now you're paying more attention.
Brian, one of the number one evidences that you're not listening is when you are waiting for them to finish their sentence so you can pounce in with your sentence.
Yes.
If someone says something and you immediately pop in with your response, you were waiting for them to quit talking so you could put your response in. We've all done it.
Yeah.
But it is so glaring when someone really needs for someone to listen to them, for that person to come back so quickly. You know they didn't hear what you said. They didn't listen to what you said. They were ready to talk. So listening, letting there be a pause when somebody is talking before you say anything that's a real help in any kind of a conversation like that.
Yes.
Now, I want to say a couple other things about men. A man, when I was growing up, my father was a great father, but we never said I love you. We never said I love you in our family. Now, we were a loving family, but nobody said that.
Yeah.
When Jesus came into my life, suddenly my heart changed, and I found myself telling men I love them. And what I've watched over the years is some of the crankiest men and or just older men that when they open up their heart to Jesus, and I'm not trying to get off on any kind of evangelical thing, I'm just telling you my experiences.
Yeah.
I love you starts coming a lot easier, a lot more naturally, and crying. I talked to a man, just as I told you, just before I came, who was really upside down in life, and he started choking up, tears coming into his eyes, and he stifled it because he didn't want to cry in front of me.
Yeah.
So we went on through the conversation, and we were leaving and getting in our cars. I said, "Now I want to mention one thing to you, man. When you want to cry, cry.
Yeah.
Because us men, we're not going to cry in front of anybody. Cry till the snot's coming out of your nose, if that's what it takes. Sure. Let it out. Cry." But I want to tell you a funny story. A good friend of mine called me after a man that I coached church basketball with a man here in Greenville for years, and then he committed suicide. And I didn't know him that well. We didn't have a relationship outside of just coaching our daughters at church basketball. But my friend Jimmy called me to say, I just want to tell you about his funeral. His son got up there and gave a talk about his dad, and his son said this, tell the people you love that you love them, because you don't know if it's the last time you're going to see them.
Yep.
All right, now that's what Jimmy called to tell me. So I said, "Jimmy, thank you for that. I love you." He said, "Thanks," and hung up. So I called him back. I said, "You called me to tell me how important it is to tell somebody you love them. You can't receive it because he's a man." See?
So why is it so hard for guys to do that?
Why is it?
I just, I'm similar to you. I grew up in a very, you know my dad. You met my mom, right?
Yes.
Good people. They didn't tell each other that they loved them. They loved us, but it was never like, "I love you."
Right.
Now we do. And, I mean, when I went through going blind and some of the transitions that I just had to accept in my life, that was one of the first things. I just started letting people know that I loved them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And being vulnerable, and I've had many conversations with you, Sam, where you've probably seen me tear up, or we're saying I love you, and can't tell you how lucky I am to have you in my life, to have David in my life, where we can have some conversations about our needs, and many other friends. Yeah. So I'm so blessed in that department, and I could probably name 10 guys, easily, that every time we hang up the phone, I'm saying I love you.
Yeah, and it's freeing, it's liberating, it's heartwarming, it's wonderful, and men won't do it. I've got several men that I'm very close to, and they still, when I say I love you, they'll say, "Great, thanks," or "I'll see you soon," or whatever. They can't say it.
Well, I want to say this because we are going into Valentine's Day. And Valentine's Day, we usually acknowledge someone that we love in our life. And I want to extend that not just to spouses and partners, but to guys out there, to maybe say, find some other people in your life where you can say, "I love you too." Valentine's Day just doesn't have to be for lovers.
Right. "I love you" is something that men have a hard time saying. Yeah. They have a hard time receiving. It's just not built in our DNA, but you said and I've said, it's so liberating. It's so freeing to say it.
But do you think for some men, because of what they've been through, and for, where it can be very liberating and just so awesome that when somebody hears that it kind of grinds them even more. Like,
Could be. Yeah.
where they just have had such a bad experience and maybe haven't really felt a level of love.
Right.
That's got to be hard.
That's got to be hard. And I was fortunate to be raised in a family where I had all of that love. But people are not raised in those situations, and they come out of them with this baggage and these wounds. Now, if they're a man listening to us right now, you might be saying, well, they're being a little bit on the feminine side, of the sissy side, all this talk about. But I'm just telling you, the stronger the man, the more he's comfortable and at liberty to say, I love you. And I'll cry. That's a strong man. The weakness is when you cannot open yourself up to that.
And one of my credos is the authentic samurai is the last one to pick up his sword. So everything else comes before that. The real man is going to be able to talk his way through stuff and share in a way that can hopefully solve problems. And I think to do that, you have to be willing to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable, to open yourself up. But by doing that, I think what you can avoid or work through, that's the true reward.
And you had mentioned before we even got started talking about this, about how what we think becomes how we feel, becomes how we act, the things that we do, and you and I talked about before we started this that you really can control the way you think.
Yeah,
you can. You're not a slave to that. You can control the way you think. And negative thinking is not just harmful for your feng shui, so to speak. It hurts you physically.
It does.
Your brain registers the negative thinking.
It can take years off your life.
It take years off your life. So we can control the way we think if we put a little effort into it, and we can control the way we feel. Because feelings, as I mentioned to you, they're okay as servants, but they're disastrous masters.
Well, and that can help deal with urges. It can help open us up to say I love you, and it can also, I think, help in many more ways. But one thing I wanted to kind of touch on is, when a man is experiencing some of these things that we talked about, what about like experiencing the feeling of jealousy?
Envy, jealousy.
And we've talked, you and I have talked about this, more than once, and that seems to be like a big hang up too.
Because two really twin, I'll call them twin sins, but twin maladies, if you want to use that language, are comparing and competing.
Yes. Comparing
and competing. It does no good to do either one of them, to compare yourself to someone else and to compete. And I've had men say, look at that guy over there. He's a I don't know what language I should use here. He's a jerk. All right. And look at all the money he makes and how happy he is and all those things. And I'll say, look, I can promise you, he's unhappy inside. So don't compare yourself to him.
Yeah.
Stay in yourself. Stop the comparison, because that's all that's going to do. Now, there's another saying that I heard from another preacher. I can't remember his name, but he said, if performance is your idol, then success will go to your head and failure will go to your heart.
Oof.
If performance is your idol, if how I compete with other people, how I'm better than other people, I compare myself to other people, then when you're successful, it goes to your head. When you're not successful, it goes to your heart.
Yeah.
So that whole thing of comparing and competing is just poison for us.
And then how about the other version of jealousy, like where a man is jealous of his wife and or doesn't know how to handle her going out with her friends and is always accusing her of stuff, or just doesn't know how to handle that challenge of, I went, when I was married, I remember this a couple times. I'm not proud of it, but my wife's an attractive woman, and she was a businesswoman, and she would travel all over the country. In fact, sometimes all over the world, going to these, conferences and dinners and outings with a lot of guys. And knowing how guys act, or at least in my head, it would turn me into something that I hope I never come close to being again. And it wasn't, and that was, I feel like that was jealousy. You know what I mean? What is that all about?
Would you say that is jealousy, or that's insecurity?
Well, I would definitely say insecurities is a part of it, and what in the insecurities is what are making me, giving me this feeling of maybe what some would identify as jealous.
Right.
But I would definitely say insecurities, sure.
Well,
100%.
It really comes back. Any kind of insecurity comes back to where do you find your own foundation, your own self? Is it based on your performance and your good looks, or how much money you made, or is it really grounded in something that has an eternal significance, something that really matters? And if your grounding is, just like I said earlier, is in yourself and your performance and your good looks, or your ability for your wife is going to love you more than another guy. If any of that, I mean, that's not going anywhere. That's just poison.
It's almost like what people would call now a derangement syndrome.
It very easily could be called a derangement syndrome.
Right?
Yes, it very easily could. Now,
because you're exhibiting the exact behaviors that you don't like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so now our producer's over there giving us a signal that we're running out of time.
Okay.
Can I switch a little bit on this conversation and bring it back to you and some of our conversations?
Definitely.
You mind if I get a little evangelical on this? Will it embarrass you if I do?
No, sir.
About a year ago, you were in a dark place, and I
just a year ago.
But I was there. You would stretch me. By the way, Brian is the best stretcher there's ever been on the history of the planet. He keeps me. I thank the Lord when I'm cold plunging. I'll say thank you for Brian, because he keeps me feeling so much more fit. But you had talked about how dark things were at the time, and I said, well, they were my words. I said, Brian, because I never wanted to try to be an evangelical person in your life. So I said, it just came across. I said, Brian, do you believe Jesus was real? And you said, I don't know. Thank you for that honesty. And I said, well, I think you have come to know me as a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
I know he's real.
Yeah.
Why don't you just start having some conversations with him?
Yeah.
In those moments of darkness, just have a conversation with him. It may feel awkward. Now, here we are a year later, and you're having those conversations.
I am, and I have them with other people, too. So thank you.
But, all right, so can we finish with this? I'm not trying to hijack your finish, but you can finish however you want. But the other day, you and I were having a conversation, and you had asked me about something about Jesus, and you kept using the word religion.
Right.
And you remember I corrected you at the end, and I said, "No, Brian, I don't want you to say religion anymore. I want you to say relationship. Don't say religion." No, I said, "Don't say religion anymore." And you said, "Why not?" And I said, "Because Jesus didn't bring a religion; He brought a relationship.
Yes. And
it's a personal relationship. So wherever you are in your spiritual journey, everybody's on a spiritual journey now. We know that.
Yep.
Wherever you are, if it's grounded in your abilities and your performance, that's a shaky foundation.
Right.
But if you start finding, and of course, you go to people who went to AA. Bob and Bill, who started AA, were Christians who followed Jesus, but they knew they couldn't throw that at somebody who's trying to get out of alcoholism, so they talked about a higher power.
Right.
Eventually, they wanted to bring you back to God and then to Jesus. So I would just say, because this is what I do for a living, and I've learned over all these years that this is the only source for peace and joy, is just start those conversations for a relationship. Yeah. And that's how we started, talking about relationships.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful for our relationship. Like, we just, used having someone in your life that you can talk to as an example, for maybe some of the listeners. And I'm so grateful,
Me too.
to have you. I've known you since 2000. I met you just before I went blind. And the relationship with you, I don't even know where to begin. Mm-hmm. And I know people have witnessed it. And there isn't a person in my life that has not seen how important our relationship is to me.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I mean,
that's a gift from me.
And I mean, and family members that know, because of my relationship with you, that I'm in good hands. Mm-hmm. And I'm, and I'm going to be able to, get a lot out of life just because of our relationship. So thank you, man.
Thank you. That's a gift for me.
Yeah.
That really is. Man, thank you for having me in this conversation. I love talking like just back and forth like this.
Yeah, well, it's going to keep going.
Yeah. Yes.
And for the listener that would like to maybe learn more about what you're doing and how they can get connected and get involved with some of your work, what's the best way for people to find you?
Our website is 721ministries.org, 721ministries.org. We have a podcast, various things. We're on YouTube channels and we're Instagram page. But if you just go to 721ministries.org and navigate around, you'll see everything we do. If anybody wanted to get in touch with me directly, there is a contact on that website, 721ministries.org, and you'll see everything we have.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, thank you very much for your time today. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I love you very much, man.
I love you too, brother. Great to be here.
Have a great day.
Yes, sir.